Hey, welcome to Roots and Riches, the podcast where we celebrate the journeys of diverse entrepreneurs who are making waves in the world of business. I'm your host, Jose Aviles,
And I'm your co-host, Fee Gentry.
and each week we dive into inspiring stories of resilience, innovation, and cultural pride. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a seasoned business owner or just looking for some motivation, you've come to the right place. So join us as we uncover the roots of success and the riches that come with perseverance and passion. So let's get started.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are in the world watching this first inaugural episode of Roots and Riches. I'm your co-host, Fee Gentry, and here's my better half.
Hi, I'm Jose Aviles, and I'm super excited to do this with you, Fee. So let's go.
I know, we're so excited. We have been talking about this. We've been thinking about doing this for like a long time. We've been fumbling and bumbling with it for a while. So,
Yeah.
Jose, let's talk about why Roots and Riches? Like you came up
Well,
with the name.
I think it was a
Like,
joint
so,
effort. Like we were like going back and forth between,
yeah,
one option and the other. For me, what Roots and Riches means is I feel like every every business has its own story, and every person kind of has obviously their background, their influence, their cultural influences, and whatever influence they have in their lives. And I feel like a lot of times we leave that at the door when we go into business, that we shift from like who we are to the business world. But in reality, you can bring your background, your cultural experiences and influences into your business, and also speak to those who are in the same, have similar, or have something that aligns with those values. So in a way, we talk about different aspects of who we are, with the lifestyle that we bring, the influences that we bring, and we bring that into business and help impact those places that sometimes we are underrepresented and or not really at the forefront of the media, of the world, of what we see. So I wanted, for me, it means bringing kind of, for me specifically, I'm Puerto Rican, born and raised in Puerto Rico. I came to the States for college, after college, sorry. To me, it's like bringing that Puerto Rican culture, those influences from Hispanic communities, and taking that into the US and the world, and how I see a lot of times I encounter people in the same vein in terms of culture, click right away. So how do we take that into business, make it into a business that can sustain in our lifestyle? So to me, that's kind of the roots and the riches. It's kind of like goes together into a lifestyle, and we don't have to leave who we are and who we be, like, influences at the door and put our business hats on. We can have our business be our story and the story of our culture and our lives and whatnot.
yeah, I totally agree. That same thing. We always talk about that. Like we've heard the word, code switching, that we take off one hat and put on another hat when we go into business. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so kind of like you, my background was, I was born in Houston, Texas. So shout out to Houston. But I came from a family, that is very multicultural. My family have Caribbean roots as well, like from Caribbean roots. And I grew up in California, which was very utopic, near a military base. And there were people from all over the world that I grew up around. And it's like, I grew up with people who spoke different languages. One of my best friends was an albino. I mean, it's just different things. And so I think like it's so important, especially in the way that we live our lives now, to integrate ourselves with one another. Cause I think, like, especially if this is, I'm assuming we're gonna have most of a US based audience. People think we have like a black and white problem, but I think we have a red and green problem. And that is us seeing each other's humanity, and then us it's a socioeconomic issue. It's more class system. It's about, it's about, like we talk about the riches, it's the haves and the have nots. And I think what we can bring to this show is like, hey, your your differentiator, like who you are, uniqueness is a superpower. Let's learn how to leverage that in business and take
Yeah.
advantage of that. So
And not only
I think
that,
that's
I feel
cool.
like that
Yeah,
differentiation and that culture and the unique experiences speak to a specific audience, and people who are looking at businesses, they don't see a lot of people look like them a lot of times. So they don't, not only customers, but
yeah,
also other entrepreneurs and other people that are potentially
that's
have
right.
that entrepreneurial spirit that would like to do something, but they don't really have a point of reference or a North Star to go towards, or to see. Like not a lot of people look like them that are doing what they wanted. And in that way, I feel like us kind of combining forces a little bit to try to give some people some perspective and some of those strategies, and also some of the guidance that we can develop over the years.
Yeah, I think that's important. So we should probably tell people, how did a Black Gen Xer, right? Like, how did a Black Gen Xer
It's funny because I people ask me, I don't think so. I'm like the oldest millennial. Like I'm like in that gap between Gen
Yeah,
Xers and millennials. I was in '83, so it's like they call it exennials. So we understood
yeah,
the
exactly.
world, the analog world, because we were kids when it happened, but we also like grew up with technology and the internet. So it's kind of we're kind of that in between. The other day I saw something on Facebook. They're like, we're too happy to be Gen Xers and too feral to be
Right.
millennials. So it was kind of that combination of like we're kind of in between, but it was funny. Yeah, so I'm from like the way we connected was I managed to sneak into your inbox with one of the offers that I was making for email
Right.
marketing and development.
Right.
And it's funny because I think one of the first times we talked, you're like, "Oh, your email is not that that big of a thing." I'm like, "Pete, that's how I met you. I mean, that's how I snuck into your inbox."
2 years ago,
That's
2 over
right.
2 years ago, like,
That's
over
right.
2
Yeah.
years ago.
So it's one of my, you'll come to find it's one of my pet peeves. Like people kind of like say, oh, email's dead, that, yeah. But like I use it every day and my clients use it every day. And it's one of the most effective things that we use. So that's it. So I kind of snuck in there
Yeah.
and we start talking. And then from there, we've just kind of been talking consistently for like 2 or 2 years until we finally came up with kind of like, yeah,
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 yeah, almost 3 years. Yeah, and it was funny, and it's weird because, like, every week on our calls, we talk about the things that we wish other people would talk about. Like, I mean, in terms of business, we talk about, culture, sports, current events, lifestyle, and we talk about all these things. And you know what? We don't see anybody
right.
who looks like us all the time. Like, yeah, there every now and then there are some shows that cover a specific thing, but they don't teach us how to apply it in business. So that's kind of how we came to birth this Roots and Riches journey. And so what we want to talk about are a lot of things, or the things that are applicable to you all. So we're going to be asking, for your feedback. We're going to be, putting show topics and quizzes out there for you all. And we hope that if you enjoy this content, that you share it with other people. So that's
Yeah,
what we
and for
hope,
us, it's,
really.
it's part strategy. So there's some strategies that we can give you and some proven things that we've seen work with our business, our clients and whatnot. But there's also things that you would need to bring from your own culture experience and things like, yeah, this is something that I haven't seen in my culture or something that you wish was more prominent within those influencing you. That's kind of where like, yeah, we can plug in strategies and whatnot, but there's a lot of storytelling that happens from within and from who you are. Part of what I wanted to do with this was kind of bring that for me, like that Puerto Rican brands, Puerto Rican influence, people who have done it that are in that cultural sphere. It's kind of those things like give you all the strategies. The other part, it's art and science. So we can give you the science a little bit, but that art, it's kind of who you are, the influences and the message that you're sending out to the world too.
What we forgot to do is we forgot to tell people why they should listen to us. Like, who cares? Like, why listen to Jose and Fee? I think we should probably introduce ourselves and like tell people a
Sure.
little bit about our.
Yeah. So
Yeah, go
I'm born
first.
and
Why
raised in
not?
Puerto Rico. Like I say, I have my degree is actually mechanical engineering, which is funny because it has nothing to do with business. But I ended up, as a consequence of doing engineering, I ended up doing a lot of management of projects. And that, I kind of fell in love with digital marketing as it was coming up back in 2006, 7, 8. And I started playing with it and became fairly good at it because at the time nobody would know what they were doing. And for me, kind of became a game of figuring things out with science and experiments. And I realized a lot of the project management I was doing for companies and Fortune 500 companies, I could apply to clients and their digital marketing strategy. The difference is the type of project that I was managing. So from there, I decided to make the jump to full on digital marketing. And I've been doing it since 2007, 8, those years. So I've been here for a long time with clients. Things have changed. Technologies have shifted, you know, hacks come and go. So those things like this principles and the strategy kind of remain the same. The vehicles and mechanisms are different. I'd be really fortunate to have a lot of really clients, some really high level clients that are like doing really well. I'm not sure which ones I can mention here, but some of them are really high level and doing really well. So I've been able to expose myself to a lot of those messages, those offers, those business models, and by osmosis being able to learn a lot and help other clients with some things. A lot of times you learn to identify patterns, even though if it's a different technology, like it's not Facebook or MySpace, it's not, those things are gone. Like now And the next thing, so you can identify a lot of patterns and things that work throughout different. You just identifying the little things that are in nuances that change. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell my background. Most of my specialization is in email marketing, copywriting, and kind of the media buying side of things, the advertising. So that's kind of what I do now for clients on a day to day.
But you don't tell them that because they're not, you're not going to brag on yourself. This dude is like one of the most brilliant strategists that I know for AI, for marketing concepts, like just an idea in the box,
Thank
just
you.
like a author. I forget about like, so like the children's books
Right.
that you've done, the membership sites that you developed. Like, so people just don't even know this. I'm just
Thank
going to
you.
brag
Thank
on
you.
you about that because it has been amazing to like watch this guy. So y'all, we're going to be in a treat, like a big treat
Thank you.
to work with Jose. So you can't
No,
go without that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So you
you.
can't forget about that. I'll tell you all a little about me. I'm just a actual entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've owned, I've co-founded or started 9 different companies, now 10 different companies in 6 different industries, ranging from, fitness, rehabilitation, sports marketing, and real estate. That's what I've been. People probably know me now more so in the real estate space, but really I'm just an entrepreneur. My bachelor's is in physiological psychology. So I went to school for physical therapy. Like, so people don't even know that. I have a master's in exercise science and I have a master's in business administration. So, my plan was to be a physical therapist and own, I wanted to own a sports therapy company. That's what I really wanted to do. And so it turned out that I ended up, doing a lot of marketing, same thing, working, a lot of Olympians, professional athletes, and did a lot of events. And so I ended up, buying or starting a sports marketing company in Houston, Texas. So I was like the very first woman in like Houston to own a sports event marketing management company. That's kind of my background. And then so on the diversity side of things, I joined a major real estate company, which is a Fortune 1000 company, and served on the board of directors. I was the first Black woman in U.S. history to serve in this capacity on a multi-billion-dollar company, and got to lead the efforts on um, real estate professionals. And what I noticed was that yes, while real estate, the X's and O's of real estate are exactly the same, but we were experiencing differently based on where they were in the world. So we had people who spoke different languages, or they loved differently, or they were veterans, or they were young professionals, and so I start teaching them how to do business, just teaching the things that I did and then teaching them how to apply those business practices in their world and not only help themselves, but help their clients. And we had a very successful with it, and was like the first to actually report this to Wall Street. And Wall Street responded very favorably to those efforts. So that's kind of my backstory. So
No, yeah, and
that's
you're
all of
also
that.
like you also are humble because I think you have one of the strongest brain. Like when people see you and yeah, they see you speak, they really like resonate with what you're saying. For me, it's one of those things. Like sometimes we try to assimilate and look like the other businesses that we see, and like for me, like I think you're the strongest voice of no. I like embrace who you are and use that competitive advantage even just for that. But it's one of those things like yeah, not we don't do that enough, and we don't bring who we are into business as much as you entice people to do. Because like every time I see you get angry, it's like yeah, this industry needs to change. And I see you with you kind of like I see your the vision and the goal and the strength behind it. So and the passion behind it. I'm really excited to join forces with you and do this.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is gonna be, like I said, this is gonna be fun. So right now, one of the things we want to bring to the audience is about current topics. We want to stay relevant. You and I have this thing that you have this concept that's called like dinosaurs and meteors. Let's start educating the audience about
Yeah, it's
dinosaurs
for
and meteors,
Esther. No,
asteroids. I
so
think,
I don't think it's a different for the practical sense of it. There's no difference between mirrors and asteroids. It's going to do the same damage. So for me, is the
yeah,
way that I usually frame it is in every market, there are always changing conditions. Now, there's some conditions that are changing because they're driven because of regulations. Some are driven because of the customers. Some are driven because of new technology, new trends, practices, and whatnot. The way like to frame it to make it more of a kind of just to let big land, no pun intended, is I see markets that have dinosaurs, meaning businesses that do things the old way, or businesses that are trying to remain in the status quo. And then an asteroid is that new thing, that change. Sometimes their asteroid is it's a minor shift, like regulation passes or a new technology comes in that are kind of everybody's like exposed to it. The difference is a lot of people, I see it as, oh, that's just, it's a shooting star. But in reality, it's the asteroid who's coming to crash the market. And no matter what you look, every time I look, everywhere I've looked, I've always been able to identify a looming asteroid. Again, sometimes they're bigger than others. Like, for instance, we have talked over the last couple of weeks, you and I, about real estate. Like in real estate, there's a big asteroid coming down. So for
Yes,
you,
right, right.
businesses just for example, business in that market, in that industry, you can become a dinosaur and become extinct if you don't adapt, if you don't run into the bunker or make the preparations to withstand the impact. You're going to be running for the hills and not have time to adapt. So that's another one is AI, right? Not necessarily to
Yeah,
real estate, but we've seen it across, even in the digital marketing space. We see AI taking over a lot of
yeah,
things, a lot of functions that were done by people. So the dinosaurs they try to ignore it and they try to remain at status quo. But the thing with the asteroid is going to hit regardless, whether you accept it or not, it's going to
yeah.
hit. So for you are you going to be a dinosaur, become extinct, or are you going to adapt and become the next organism that evolves and takes that and rides that wave of the asteroid? That's how I frame it. And right now, I bet if you're watching this, you can look at your own market and say, okay, what are things that are coming or have started happening that could cause a massive shift and potentially do a lot of damage to business? Because there's a flip side of that. So I don't even know how to tell you, huge benefit to identify the asteroid and being one of the first ones to ship, because it gives you a competitive advantage, and it allows you to be the first to market, be the first ones to adapt, and to an extent, gives you a unique mechanism that you're able like to withstand and adapt quickly. So when it actually hits, and everybody's going to be late for the parade. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes 100% sense. Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, we see industries like real estate. I think healthcare is going to be the next dinosaur. The way that, we deal with healthcare and the old records and not being able systems not talking to each other, but now people are becoming more proactive. And so, I was telling you just today, I
Mm.
bought a Whoop bracelet just like literally before we got on this thing call. And like, yeah, I mean, and so it's instead of buying an Apple Watch, I bought the Whoop. The new systems like it monitors sleep, your health, your heart rhythms, all the things that we can do, like wearables, right? I think that's like the future of healthcare. That we have an active ability to monitor in real time how we're doing. And whereas our doctors, they're taking historic data, or how you go to the doctor, like you go to the doctor for a complaint and you get there and it's not happening. And you're like, I swear to you, like my stomach was hurting or this thing was here, but all of a sudden it goes away. Now we have the ability to have, technology help intervene and help like save lives. One of my friends, she was wearing a Apple Watch. The reason I decided to go ahead and get the Whoop, she was wearing an Apple Watch. She was having heart attack symptoms, and it saved her life basically because she thought she just had like bad food poisoning. Yeah, and it was actually
Wow.
a heart attack. Yeah. So yeah, so there's lots of opportunities, like we said, I think in the marketplace for you guys as business owners and even W-2s who are thinking about starting your own business to, jump into a marketplace where you can be the asteroid. I think that's one of my superpowers is I can see, I've always been either ahead of trends or in front of where the waves were going or could see them coming. I think that's our unique gifts that we can see that, especially those of us, like we said, culturally, our cultures lead trends, especially like in the Black community. Like, we always lead in music and entertainment and sports. So we're always in fashion. So always in that cutting edge because we've had to become all of us, right? Our cultures have had to become resourceful. Like some of the stereotypes about different cultures is because we've had to improvise and create things out of nothing. And that's where some of the best innovations.
Totally.
Yeah.
And for me, is one of those things that like, this happens to me every time I go to Puerto Rico. I travel pretty much every year to visit family and whatnot. And every time I see so much opportunity and so many things like, oh, this isn't on the States. Or like, oh, if I could just bring this to the States and vice versa. I was like, and it's one of these like, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity of things that are not even, you don't have to recreate it, reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be the next Elon Musk or anything, but
Steve.
connecting things, that's also business. That's a business model. What I've seen a lot of times, become a super connector and see, oh, how are not just other cultures, but And this is one of the benefits of doing work with different industries. So take from different industries and see, okay, this industry is doing it better this way. Probably create something that mimics that in this other industry and connect the dots. And that alone becomes itself like on its own business. It's on an enterprise, right? So it's all this just keeping your eyes open and being involved in the world. It's one of those things that not a lot of people do. And I know entrepreneurs do it, but taking the next step where you're like actually taking the action to do it, it's kind of the other piece of it. Like a lot of times we get, how many times have you had $1 million ideas that then you're watching TV and see a commercial for it? It's one of those things like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
why could they do it and I couldn't? It's one of those things like all the different, we're all humans, right? The only difference is they just did it.
Yeah. And right. Knowledge is not power. It's the implementation of that knowledge is the power and making mistakes and iterations, like
Mm,
just going for it. Right. That's where the power comes from. We're way past the information age, right? We're in an attention age. And like we said, we're also in like what I always love what you talked about is we're in an access age. Everybody wants access to stuff. So we can always go get the information, but how do you imply, how do you apply it? How do you integrate it in your
100%.
lives? All
And,
that.
and one of the things, and you just said something that reminded me of this is a lot of times we see business, like a business failure as this catastrophic thing. But in reality, it's like
Right.
the most successful people I've ever worked with are the ones that are willing to fail the most and fail the faster. Like they rather want to have an answer that they're wrong 3 months into the process rather than 7 years into the process, right? So they want to know, is this going to work?
Right.
And if not, let's fail fast so we can fix it and,
That's
and
right.
try the next thing, or so we can improve a bit. Because going from 0 to 1 is different than going from 1 to 2. So if you get to 1 and you make something fails, then you can fix and work. But the idea of like, oh, this business failure is never going to work, that keeps a lot of people behind, keep a lot of people from not doing it. So in my,
Right.
the most successful people I've seen is the ones that are willing to try and fail fast and keep going and keep moving forward. But no one's
Yep.
undefeated. No one's undefeated in business, right?
Yep. No one is
So
a
yeah,
right, right. Nobody's undefeated. And people forget about that, success does favor speed. Like the more you fail, like to get there, you don't learn, like think about it. We learn from wins a little bit, but you really
yeah,
learn from your losses. And I don't, like you said, they're not losses, they're lessons. And so if you look at it as this is not a loss, this is a lesson and you learn from it and then you go to the next thing. Like you said, I agree. Most of, all my heroes, like in business have all had major stories of failure over and over and over, and then they hit it. 7 Up was really 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4 up. I mean, literally it came like 7 Up was
right.
the 7th iteration before it
Yeah.
became a
And even
success.
to a
Yeah.
practical level, me as a media buyer, as a Facebook ad person, I can tell the amount of times I just like throw stuff to the wall and I see this beautiful ad, with great copy. And I see this ugly ad with so copy and the ugly one would win over the beautiful one. And I'm like, okay, I guess the market tells me, but the idea of like just
Yeah.
throwing a lot of things to see what's working and just picking the winners and just fail the other ones that fail, just like get rid of them, right? Just what's working. But it's practical in that sense, but we can
Right.
apply it in different iterations of business in a way. And it's, you know, there's no shame in failing. And I think that's the one thing that keeps people from jumping in
Right.
more. And then,
So let's recap that. So let's recap the lessons that we've talked about. We're at like the halfway mark so far, right? So number one, I think one of the lessons that we want people to really understand is their uniqueness. What they bring to the marketplace is use that as leverage and a superpower. So I think that's lesson number one that you get from this episode. The lesson number two, I think, is about dinosaurs and asteroids. Do you want to be a dinosaur? You have a choice. Do you want to be a dinosaur or do you want to be an asteroid? And that means being very, very strategic and being thoughtful about how you position your business in the marketplace, right? And so you need to decide about, is your business behind? Are you employing, technology, and are you using best practices for what's working now? And are you embracing new technology? So I think, or new business practices or best practices. So that's the number two thing. And what's the third thing that we talked about
the
was,
failure,
that I think it's
is,
important,
yeah.
The failure. So talk about that. So
Yeah.
talk about
So
that.
it's
Yeah.
just basically that failing fast is better than not trying at all. And know what's undefeated and you're
Right.
going to fail.
Losses and lessons. Yeah. 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 So start. Yeah. So I think so. If you guys get nothing else from this episode, those three things so far are what we think are highly important for you to have. And then, man, let's go to the things that we normally talk about because they don't
Right.
know what we talk about, things that are coming up like in the next few weeks that I think is really important for me. You and I are both huge sports fans. It's funny. I love basketball. I played collegiate basketball, NCAA basketball, and I played after, overseas after I graduated. I was too early for the WNBA, but I worked with a
Mm,
lot of the players at the WNBA. I had already retired by the time the WNBA came around. But I was like, so I love basketball, but I like the
mm,
3-on-3 basketball. But you know what my favorite
right.
sports are? Like
Yeah. That's
gymnastics. I love
swimming.
gymnastics, synchronized swimming, track and field. Oh
Right.
God,
Yeah.
track and field. It's track and field is going to be amazing because I don't know if you've been watching Sprint on
Okay.
Netflix. Y'all should go check that out. It's doing the precursor to like before the road. It's like documenting like the top track and field athletes on the
Oh, I
road
see.
to Paris. So it's a
Oh, that's
really
fun.
good
Yeah.
series.
For me, for that, growing up in Puerto Rico, basketball is pretty big. And growing up, so I never had like an NBA team. I just watched playoffs and whatnot. And then when I moved to the States, I moved to Colorado to Denver. So I became this huge Denver Nuggets fan. And, finally was able to buy both NBA games and whatnot. So this year, the basketball basically is the MVP. Jokic just going to be is playing for Serbia and then the US team. So it's like, I feel like basketball internationally has caught up to the US in terms of talent in a lot of ways. US still up the top, and then Puerto Rico is finally back in the Olympics as the
But it's
basketball team after
I
20
know for the
years.
first time. But so I don't know. I feel some kind of way about basketball and tennis
Mm,
and golf in the Olympic Games because they're professionals. That's what they do
right.
for a living. I mean, most of these players are playing the NBA. Same thing with the WNBA. All these women are playing in professional leagues all around the world. So that's why I struggle with it. I think, the vision because I sat on that I sat on the Olympic committee to bring the Olympics to the United States back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where the Houston
Mm,
2012 bid for the Olympic Games. And then I, set on some other extraneous Olympic efforts to bring the Olympics to the United States. And so for me, it was like about amateur sports and where that what that looks like for people. So that's why I love swimming, but like swimming is now becoming professional, right? Track and field is professional, but like things like archery, gymnastics, synchronized swimming. I don't know. That's
Let
a
me
little
ask you
weird,
something. I don't know if you have to
well,
give
yeah.
me any thoughts and putting you in the spot here. For me, this came to pretty evident when I back in 2014, I went to Greece like an anniversary trip, and that was about 10 years after the Olympic had gone to the Athens, and all these stadiums they have built. Granted, Greece had its own economic woes and problems, but everything was basically in ruins, and it felt like wow, like they built
Yeah.
all this infrastructure up this, and now 10 years into it, and I've heard this. I can't speak into smartly. I was saying this, but my accent got the best of me. That businesses in the areas where the Olympics games happen, especially the Summer Olympics, they build up for this 2 weeks and they invest and they do all this like build out. And then once it's over, it falls into this big slump and it's like desolate. And it's like all these things that like they realize that it was excessive spending for the infrastructure. So have you ever heard anything of
Uh-huh.
this? Have you any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely, because I
Mm,
was part of that prior for Olympic bids, and so people don't know behind the scenes on the business side of Olympics, it's a business and it's politics. I mean, so you have to have like cities and countries buy in. And so part of it is what is the economic plan? Who's going to take the burden of this? And for example, in the United States, because I was in Houston, we're planning for the Houston 2012 Olympic Games. So we had venues that spanned from Texas all the way to Mexico. We knew that we were partners with Mexico to do the soccer games and rugby. And then we like in and then in the like and then in Texas, we had so all the things. So as a result of that, the economic plan why Houston was going to be so successful, we had 9/11 happen. That's the reason that Houston didn't really basically get the Olympic Games. And Houston will probably be in a bid for it sometime in the future, except Los Angeles just won it. Like so Los Angeles will have it 2028. But we built all these structures. So remember, as a result, Houston, of building those structures, even though we didn't get the Olympic Games, we've had the All-Star game, the Super Bowl, rugby games, US Mexico soccer, like soccer, rugby, all these things have, and golf championships as a result of it. So the cities like Houston have done very, very well as a result of it. City of like Salt Lake City in the US, Paris. Think about Paris got to built
Right.
all this infrastructure because they've had the government officials and you have private sector be able to invest in it. And people and it's a
Right.
tourist attraction. I mean, so even years past, it's just like, but like you said, like some countries didn't benefit. Like Japan has done very well from
Okay.
hosting the Olympic Games, very economically. So yes, it becomes training grounds. It's a business thing. Their professional teams get to use those facilities, and then you attract other amateur sports or other events because you have these world
Yeah, it's
class
funny because I
venues.
feel like
Yeah,
London, places like London, Paris, and they're like
yeah,
already before the Olympics, big tourist destinations, obviously big spots. So it's not like they're
right.
building out immensely to the Olympics. They're already big. So in those places, I feel like it's a little less frequent that would happen. But I wonder, a place like in Atlanta, right? Like when they did the '96 Atlanta games, like I wonder what happened.
Oh, it's still yeah, it's still Olympic Park. I was in Atlanta in December. Olympic Park. I literally
Is that
stayed
right?
across from Olympic Park, and guess what? Right across from Olympic Park, right across from Olympic Park, they still have the torches and stuff from 1996, and then there's the football
Right.
arena and the baseball arena. They're all in Olympic Park, and now it's kind of like almost a museum because I was at the 1996 Olympic Games. I went to the 1984 Olympic Games.
Right.
I've been
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
like, does USA have the staying power to bring in the most medals, gold medals or medals overall? Do you think they were gonna win the medal count this
I
year?
don't see why not. I don't know. 'Cause I feel like they're always, is it China and Russia, the other countries that they usually kind of have.
Yeah, they're behind us. I mean,
Yeah,
US has
I
always
know that,
taken home the
and
most medals,
but
but
I
they're
know
getting
there's a
close.
couple of people, a couple of delegations from Russia that are already not going to the Olympics. So yeah, I have to look
Oh,
what it was, but I think there's a couple that are not going. So I don't know. I think the U.S. has a pretty good, strong chance. Like at least
yeah.
on the sports that I follow, I think they have basketball and some of the martial arts and
Yeah.
swimming and whatnot. I think that they have a good chance. Yeah.
Okay. Let's put on our business hats. As a business owner, what would you do to capitalize off the Olympic Games? They capitalize how our audience, how can they capitalize off of the Olympic Games? Like how should we advise them to market and take advantage of this this 2-week period or 3-week period as a
That's
business
a
owner?
good question. And I've always thought about that at a local level, right? Like you're in the town or in the area where they
Yeah.
have just having prominent. But in a way, you could piggyback off of the events and what's happening and create some sort of a content strategy that ties those events to your offer, right? Especially now that we can use videos and
Right.
clips and TikTok and all those things. Like, can you take clips from the Olympics and see, see what the usage rights are there? But like, take events and images and whatnot, and take that into your post and say, hey, an example, hey, Team USA is playing Team, just your business in Denver or something like that. And you could definitely tag and say, do you think, you know, well, Jokic has what it takes to beat the US? And then create a conversation within your Facebook page, within your Instagram, and create that conversation and start engaging people that are engaging with your brand, but about something that has happened, right? And then see if you can tie those to awareness about your products, awareness about your brand. And if you happen to have a product that is sports gear or something that is related to them, then it's perfect for you to offer deals and you know, ta- tap into those events and try to maximize the amount of content. Because now the content is being created for you. Because those events are happening, and those people are going to be at the forefront.
Exactly.
So you can just take that, piggyback up of that, and then create awareness to your brand, to your community in a way. Passes beyond like the 2 weeks of the Olympics. That's kind of what I would play it.
Yeah, I would do it I have a couple different strategies. As a bricks and mortar, I'd have a watch party, right? If I'm in the business of like a pizza joint or a beer joint or something like that, I'd have a watch party. Or if I had a facility where I wanted to drive traffic to on a bricks and mortar part, I'd definitely invite
Watch
people and
party.
have a happy watch out party.
Mhm.
And you can do that virtually as well. I use that as a business strategy. And then the other part is I would go live on social media and do a commentary about somebody from your say you're not a native, that you're a US citizen, but somebody might be Mexican American, or they might be, or if it's the Paralympics and you specialize, you sell gear to senior citizens or somebody, some kind of tool or something like that, and say, I would go and market and say, hey, here's a product or service that benefits this person, or, something along the things that are relatable, but definitely capitalize off of that. And also, people don't even know this because I've interviewed lots of Olympians. They're available. Like somebody who wins a gold medal, you can a gold medal, silver medal, or bronze medal, or just an Olympian, like somebody who's an Olympian from your hometown, to interview them, bring them on your show podcast. That's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna bring an Olympian because I know lots of them. We're gonna bring an Olympian onto like our podcast and interview them. That's content that people want to see and get from their perspective of what it took to train, etc. And then do like the business principles of becoming an Olympian or an Olympic champion. So I think that's
Yeah,
those
not
are the
only
things that I
that, like,
recommend
for
for
example, the
for
other
this.
thing you could do is specifically talking about roots and culture. Like, you can take, like, for instance, for me,
Yeah,
the Puerto Rican basketball team is back at the Olympics after 20 years not being there, right? And say I have
yeah,
a brand and I'm obviously Puerto Rican. So if I want to market to the Puerto Rican community, people that are in that cultural kind of sphere, I could just say, hey, Puerto Rico, and just tag my brand a lot to those, follow the Puerto Rican team, or say, whatever. So now you could take the country of origin of the culture and try to say, hey, let's just watch the Angola Puerto Rico game, or let's watch that and make it into a thing that is not related to your business per se, because you may not have a product that is specific to that, but you can tie your brand to that and say, yeah, I'm a fan too. I'm just watching with you guys. I know I'm selling lipstick over here, or whatever the case may be, but that's kind of like,
yeah.
and become, and then the audience becomes aware of the brand, becomes aware of you, and then you become that kind of like, that's the kind of thing that gets people together and it's sticky. So that's another opportunity there.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Like this country and the world in general, business is global, right? And so this is an opportunity to like we said, show the origin, country pride. It shows, especially like the US pride, and then you're like we call co-marketing. That's what
Right.
co-branding or co-marketing. And so you could get a story picked up because you did this unique thing in conjunction with and get the attention of the athletes or the United States Kung Fu
Yeah.
Association, right? Like your martial arts association, and do something with that. And that becomes a business opportunity. So don't let this Olympic period come by because this happens every 4 years, but you could do it every year, right? But don't let this go by, this historic event that's getting ready to come up. Don't let this go by. So the plan. So I think for us, some practical strategies and tips for you guys is number one, create a plan. Like just commit. I think that's the number one thing that people need to do is commit to doing something with regard to marketing and taking advantage of this event. Number two, put a plan together, whether it's a social media plan or a strategy on what you're going to do specifically, whether it's online or offline. And then number three, what else would you suggest, Jose, on what
I
people
think
should
creating
do?
conversations within the community, right? Create a lot of engagement following events and going through the steps of like following athletes and being like, one thing you said, a lot of
Yeah,
times, even here, like, yeah, like I'm in Connecticut, but one of the American Idols kid is from like the town over. So it was the biggest thing when he got back home, right? And that was way after the competition. So, right,
yep,
same with athletes, right? You can have someone in your
right.
hometown that is in the
Yep,
Olympic or it's your city, and then you could take that and you don't even have to contact them. Like, you could be just involved in the event. Hey, I'm going to film myself kind of receiving this guy at the airport. Hey, celebration. And it
yeah.
becomes,
Yep,
because people want to
yep.
be part of that. And I remember I
That's right.
remember there's a brand, going back to the Denver Nuggets. Sorry, I'm so focused on them, but there's a podcast in the Denver Nuggets community that during the pandemic, they would do before games and after game shows talking about the game. And for me, it was like, there was nothing else going on. And I just wanted to see what they had to say. They won the game, they lost the game. I just wanted to see what they had to say about it. And they were talking about, it's just half of the time, it's just spitballing and being a little stupid guys watching a game. But it created this community. Like 4 years later, now they are a pretty big brand because they created that community and they knew, like, they tied themselves to the NBA bubble during COVID. so they garnished the attention because there was nobody else was doing much. That was one of the few sports that was around. So it's similar with the Olympics. You can garnish that attention and keep it and keep that attention. Say, hey, and then do it. And know that happens every 4 years, and be able to like regenerate a plan that does the same over and over. So that's one of these. There's some sick cycles into business that are take advantage of those, and then you're able to.
Those are event related things. And then the other thing on it is sometimes we forget to do this, is put an offer on it, right? Put a financial tag on this. So put a financial tag. Yes, it's nice for us to do awareness. That's the awareness branding and awareness marketing, but put an offer out there of something. So it might be a special, it might be an Olympic special, right? So it could be a bundle that you put together, call your Olympic optimization method, right? That you have, and you create that and say, hey, for this time, you get 24% off. Or if you do a post on my channel, then I'll give you 10% off of my product or service. So make sure that you also have a financial objective or goal as well, or some kind of specific target, because we are in
let
business.
people give you money if they want to. So make it easy for them by making offers and making part of the equation.
So the time is going by pretty quickly, and I guess we should have some parting words, for people.
What I'll say is that I'm really excited to do this. I hope if you have an idea of something, or if you're in business already, that you find value in what we're doing here. And then you tell your story and tell the story of your brand and tell the story of culture and who you are, where you came from, and where you want to be, and be a voice for others that may come after you, and help people as you can. So that's what we're trying to do: help people, try to give them perspective of voices that may have not heard from. I love talking to you too, so it's fun for me.
Yeah, this has been this is our normal conversation, how we banter back and forth. So Roots and Riches is the show for those entrepreneurs and individuals who are looking to grow in their business, but they want to do it in a way that's impactful, that is relatable to them and who they are and how they can better serve their audience. And so we hope that we have started to create a relationship with you all, and we look forward to earning your trust. And more than anything, we want to hear from you. We want to know what's important to you, because this show isn't about us. It's about you. And we want to be able to be as valuable to you and be a resource to you all. We are so excited to also have a way for you all to contact us, rootsriches.com. That's ROOTS riches, RICHES.com. And that's how you'll be able to continue to engage with us and find episodes, not only here on the YouTube show, but you'll also be getting some content from us. And if you have any ideas that you want to share with us, please be sure to comment below or DM us and contact us. You see Jose's the email guy. Y'all already know the email guy has his email. So if you have any ideas or comments, please reach out to us either on social media, but we really prefer it on this platform. And if you like the show, we hate to ask and beg, but if you like the show, please subscribe and tell others and invite your friends.
Cool. Right. Great to see you. Have fun.
Yeah. So without further ado, we are out. Y'all have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Roots and Riches. We hope today's conversation has provided you with both motivational and practical tools to enhance your business journey. Remember, your roots are the foundation of your success, and with the right strategies, your potential for growth is limitless.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your network. Follow us on social media and visit our website for resources, business tools, and updates.
And in the meantime, stay rich and get rooted.